Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. I have a surprise for me. Not a surprise for you probably, because you may have already seen different walkthroughs of this beautiful deck. But I just got this in the mail, and I made a promise to a couple of people that I hold very dearly to my heart that I would do a walkthrough. So I'm going to do a walkthrough of this beautiful Vieville Tarot, created by the amazing artists and artisans at Artisan Tarot. This is my fourth deck from them, and I'm really excited to see this. The Vieville is one of my favorites. Right up there with my Noblet, my Tarot of Paris, which they said that they're going to do a redrawing of, and then this Vieville. So like I said, I'm thrilled to have this in my library and even more thrilled to take a look at it together with you. So hang on to your horses, we'll flip the camera down and take a look together. Friends, welcome back. And these are the two decks that we're going to be looking at side by side. This is the Tarot de Jaques Vieville by Artisan Tarot, which I just received. And this is a deck that is older in my library. This is the Tarot de Vieville by Patrik. And this is a beautiful deck. This is the first Vieville deck that I've had, period, that I've had. And I'm very glad to have it. And I'm also glad to have this redrawing, and you'll see why in just a moment. But before we get into the decks, let me tell you or show you some of the goodies that the beautiful people at Artisan Tarot was kind enough to send. Now, I ordered this deck with my own cash money, and also with my own cash money, I ordered this gorgeous burgundy velvet bag for the deck. It's going to match the overall style and character of the Vieville Tarot. It's a beautiful bag, lovely. This burgundy, you'll see, is a great match for this deck. And the backs of the deck are this same pattern. So absolutely smashing. I love this bag. The inside is lined with burgundy satin. It's just a fabulous bag. Glad, so happy to have it. I believe I ordered the pin as well. And you can see the pin matches, the lapel pin matches the icon on the box beautifully. Lovely pin. And then they were kind enough to add a couple of goodies for me. They added the coin. This is a choosing coin, I suppose. The Seals of Solomon. Fourth and fifth pentacle of Mercury. And I don't know much about it because I didn't order this. This is a gift and I'll need to learn more about it. And to learn more about it, they've got a wonderful QR code here to take a shot of and go to a website and learn. There's also the address down there. So I'm very interested to learn about this. It's probably a yes/no coin. That's my guess. And then they also sent me this lovely, my very good book about reading tarot on social media. So this will be very helpful. What do you think? Does that look like me? Maybe it does. So this will be a very good and very easy read, if you know what I mean. Yeah? So great information, I'm sure. So thank you very much. Wonderful people at Artisan Tarot. Here we go into the cards, into the decks. Let me unbox the Tarot de Vieville. So in the box, in the set from Patrik, we have a fairly thick book, which is in, I think it's all in English. Here's my bookmark. Yes, it was all in English. It's been a while since I've looked at the book, frankly. It was a very helpful book. I'm very glad to have it. And then the deck is inside. Let me pull out the deck and go to the front of this box. So here are the boxes. Yeah. This is a gorgeous deck. It's a facsimile on very thick cardstock. You can see just from the boxes how there is a very clear difference in card thickness, right? And I love this deck. Again, I'm very glad to have it in my library. However, when we get into the deck again, you'll see why. I'm also glad to have this. So here are the cards from this deck. You'll see that the pattern is very similar on the backs. However, it's in a brown. Yeah. This is a flip top box by Artisan Tarot. Make sure I've got all of the cards out. There we go. And as far as the size of the card, they're both about the same. Artisan Tarot's just a hair smaller, right? The width is the same. The height is just a little bit smaller, which is good because this is a little bit of a cumbersome deck to shuffle because of the thickness and the length of the card. Not impossible for me. I've got large enough hands. However, just so you know, this cardstock is durable and yet also a little bit difficult to shuffle. It's a little bit stiff, yeah? Artisan Tarot cardstock is amazingly beautiful and easy to shuffle and thin and flexible and smooth. It has a linen finish, but it slides around very nicely. This has much less slide. And there are times when I prefer having less slide, actually. When I overhand shuffle, having less slide is actually better for me, so that the cards don't go flying out of my hand. However, for overall shuffleability, Artisan Tarot cardstock is the best, among the best. And so those are the backs. These are 2 title cards that give us a little bit of information. And I'll read it off of this card, even though this has about the same information, I assume. Yes, the Jaques Vieville Tarot, made in Paris circa 1650. You heard it right, 1650, 1650, and considered in the Bibliothèque Nationale of France, is a rare example of a complete tarot deck of the 17th century. Henri René d'Allemagne, in his book Le Chat au jeu de... I'm not even going to try and pronounce the rest of it. In his book, Playing Cards of the 14th to 20th century, tells us that Jaques Vieville was a master card maker who was active in Paris between the years 1643 and 1664. This reproduction respects the colors, dimensions, and proportions, and all of the details of the original. That's this deck. For this deck, we have this as a restoration. It's based on the 1650 tarot deck created by Jaques Vieville in Paris. The only known copy is reserved in the National Library of France. Due to the age and craftsmanship, many details are indistinct. Conditions of the time required card makers to labor quickly under strict working environment, which led to this deck's unique character. And that unique character, which is beautiful here, in its peculiarity, is going to be much easier to read here in the restoration and redrawing by Artisan Tarot. And you'll see from the very first card, here is the Fool. Ta-da-da-da! Beautiful cards, both, right? And frankly, this Fool card is not all that difficult to see. It's not really difficult to tell what area is clothing, what area is the animal, what is the grass, what is the bag, what is the walking stick. You can see it all. Not too difficult. It's not too difficult. Could be a little bit of confusion as to what this is in relation to his arm, but it's really not that difficult to see in this card. In other cards, it's just impossible for me. So having this clear image is so much better. It's easier to read. different, easier, more comfortable. However, this also has beneficial qualities, I believe. Now, you'll notice here, the wonderful thing about this Fool is that not so much in this card, but in this card, it kind of looks like this arm is here and this arm is here. Both of his arms are left arms. You see what I mean? It kind of, I know, not the hand, just look at this part. Doesn't this look like the arm goes down to here to an elbow, which goes up to this shoulder on the left. And then this arm seems to come off of the left and go down here. So it seems like both his right and his left arm are both on the left side of his body to me. Now in this deck, it looks a little bit less like that. This looks a little bit more like, because this is separated from this in this deck, it looks more clearly like this arm is on the right side of his body and this arm is on the left-hand side of his body. However, that kind of ambiguity is one of the charms of this kind of facsimile deck, to me. So I love both of them. However, again, this is easier to understand and looks more human. I love that they kept the yellow coloring on the animal here at the head. You see that? Whereas this probably was a stray splotch of ink. I love that they kept it here because that makes this animal look very interesting, right? Having this golden head and a gray body. I just love that. Okay, so that was the Fool. Here we go to the Batailleur. Now you'll also notice that these cards do not have titles. We're used to seeing card 13 not having a title. And the first card, or the Le Mat, Le Faux, not having a number or being numbered 0 sometimes. Now this, okay, so is this Tarot de Marseille? People will fight over that. In fact, most people will say this is not Tarot de Marseille. However, for me, this is Tarot de Marseille adjacent. This is what became the Tarot de Marseille. And so there are some differences in this deck from what we would normally consider like a Noblet, a Dodal, or a Conver deck, which are very clearly Tarot de Marseille, type 0, 1, and 2. However, this is, for me, within the same tradition. And it's made in France. So, there you go. So this card does not have the 0 on it, does not have a title. This card, you can just see the 1. You can barely see the 1 above the Batailleur's head. But so we have the numbers, we don't have titles. We can see all the items on the Batailleur's table, although they're much clearer here. Still hard to figure out exactly what this is. Is it a purse? Is it paper with a knife? I have no idea. You'll also notice that this red splotch is gone in this deck. However, the clothing is easy to understand. The landscape is beautifully colored. I love what their choice is for the landscape here. The grayish blue merging into the golden colors, that blend right there is just lovely. The greens up here with the little golden tips, just lovely. Lovely selections for coloring in the card. Love the wand, and that we can clearly see the difference between the color of the wand and the color of the hand all the way through. How many fingers? 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers and a thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers and a thumb. Okay, sometimes there's an extra finger tossed in for good measure, right? But again, this is much easier to see. It's easier to see what we're looking at. Here, it's not so easy, but again, and I'm not going to say this anymore, there are benefits to this as well. So again, I'm really happy to have both of these in my library. Here we have the Popes. Easier to see that this is a book. Easier to see the tiara and the curtain hung behind. Easier to see what are the folds of the fabric, although it's this piece of clothing is very interesting, right? It's kind of a cubist piece of clothing. If a cubist were to sew a costume, That's what would probably come out to be like. But it's easier to see that, yes, these are all folds of clothing, and this is actually a book on the lap, whereas here it's much more difficult to see. And we can see the chair, the throne, the diet, what she is sitting on. Here we have the three, the Empress, right? Look at the expression on her face. They've maintained that the quirky expressions and facial features of the beings in this deck, from what I recall. But see how easy it is to see how the neckline and what could be an over a tunic with a medal here at the center. It's so easy to see how the clothes are layered here. Whereas here, who could tell? Are these wings or not? It looks like this is a chair to me. Here it's much more difficult to tell. Does this figure have wings? Is there a curtain behind these wings? What is that? Here it looks very clearly to me to be a chair with a very odd back. But a beautiful, beautiful design. Here's our emperor. Yeah, we don't quite get the clearness of that four. The shape of the four from the legs looks a little bit more like just crossed legs to me. Love the helmet on both of these gentlemen. Can clearly see what is beard and what is not. The scepter, the line work on the scepter is crisp, clear, beautiful here. Sloppy, messy, and also beautiful here. The shield. Notice the space between the leg and his chair, right? It's a very interesting blank, empty space here. The five, the Pope. Here we have the figure. Now you'll notice that the reds are more red in this deck than they are here. They're more of a muted, rusty red in the Artisan Tarot deck, whereas here they're more vibrant. And I like that, and I like this. Love the hats. You can see the hats much more clearly on the two acolytes or supplicants. The gesture of the fingers, much easier to see in the Artisan Tarot deck. The crozier, much easier to understand what we're seeing. The Pope's, and I forget the name of the crown. It's not a crown. It's the hat for the Pope or a bishop. Beautiful decks, both of them. Oh, I never quite noticed that these columns are really figures in the background. I just really saw that here, looking at this card. And yeah, they're there now. I can see it here. So that's another benefit of having this deck and working with this one, is that I can see here and then I can see this more clearly. Does that make sense? Because I have it clearly presented here, I can see what I'm seeing in this deck much more clearly. Love the expression on this guy's face. Now, these expressions are a little bit cleaned up, yeah? The forehead of this guy is gone. This forehead is redeveloped in the Artisan Tarot deck. Although, you do notice that they did not fix this, where this what could be a ribbon going over the top of the hat, apparently is not. It's an interesting choice, not an important choice. It's not a choice that's going to make me say, well, now I can't read this card anymore. But it's an interesting choice that they've made, and I appreciate that. Here, I had never completely noticed those little tassel things there. So, you learn something new every day. Here we have the Lover card, L'amoureux. Maybe there are no titles. So is it the singular, plural? Who knows? But I love the burst of light here behind both of these angel figures with the arrows. It's much easier to see the bow here than it is here. Love the hair on the angel. Love the expression of the male figure here in the center, looking at this figure with much more interest. In fact, both of these figures really look like they're looking at this figure But where are they looking on this figure? Not her face. They're looking, what are they looking at? I'm not going to say. That's for you to tell. What are they looking at? What are they so interested in? Love that the bare feet of the male figure are so clear in the Artisan Tarot deck. Also love that the back of this figure is more clearly defined in the Artisan Tarot deck. Here, just kind of bleeds into the border of the card, doesn't it? Here we have okay, so this is card 6, right? Usually card 7 is what? The Chariot. Here card 7 is Justice. Isn't that an interesting thing? Yeah, the order of the cards is a little bit different. But we've got everything really clearly defined here. I love love the choices of colors. Love this purple instead of the brown. Love that purple. It's easy to see the bands of the scales, the ropes or the bands holding the scales to the balancing bar here. The sword is much easier to see. The expression on her face is maintained but clearer in the Artisan Tarot deck. Lovely work. Absolutely lovely work. And here we have, now this is 8, right? When you first see this card, it looks like, is that a 3? But see this 5, it's hiding over there on the side. And they did a really good job of not sticking the numbers together. Yeah, the 5 and the 3 are there, they're clear, but they're spaced out like they are in the original, which I love. I love these two, what are these? Yeah, horses with human heads. And they're not even horses, really. Are they lions? They're not really lions. What the heck are they? They're just creatures for this world of the Vieville. Love the mole on the cheek of the charioteer and the shield on the elbow here. I love these 2 plates that look like breastplates for a woman rather than a man. So you get your choice, right? Is this a male figure? Is it a female figure? I suppose we could make that choice ourselves. You know, the grass is always pinker and grayer on the other side. Love the canopy here. I love their choices. I love that they didn't fix everything. Now this funky space here is maintained. Yeah? This weird top is maintained. All the weirdness is still there, but clearer, which I appreciate and I love. Okay, whoopsies, I'm sorry. So, that's right. I made the mistake when I reordered the cards. So, that's right. 9 here is not the Hermit, but it is Strength. Now, Strength is usually 8 in Tarot de Marseille. I'm sorry, no. Strength is usually 11 in Tarot de Marseille. Justice is usually 8. Here we have Justice at 7 and Strength at 9 instead of the Hermit or Father Time. Love this lion. Where the heck is its lower legs? Who knows? I'm glad the Artisan Tarot didn't try to figure that out for us. I love the choice of colors here, this fleshy body and golden head of the lion. Love the originally quirky face of the person in the dress. I mean, does that look like a female face to you? Maybe. Does it look like a male face to you? Maybe. Does it look like an intersex face to you? Maybe. Although, it's just interesting. The faces in this deck are just interesting. I'm glad they didn't color in the flesh of these figures too. They left them not white as in Caucasian or white as in European, but white as in like paper white, right? Well, I'm glad that they chose that. Beautiful, beautiful. And they did choose to color in this ball here to make it the same color as the lion, whereas I never really thought that as part of the lion myself, but not a bad choice, not a particularly necessary choice, but yeah, why not? Why not? Okay, let's move on to, the Wheel of Fortune is still 10. That's nice to know. And you see how bizarre this wheel is right? we've got the bar going through, which we don't have in many Tarot de Marseille decks. But notice this. This reminds me of a water wheel in some ways. Doesn't this look like water going to a waterfall? Like, I don't know, a watermill. Of course, it's not a watermill. But you'll also notice that this wheel is not exactly round, is it? It looks like it goes off this way in some ways. Maybe, maybe not. This rabbit, is it a rabbit? Maybe. Going up, is this a human figure? Maybe. Going down, but there's the head, there's the neck. Where's the body? There's like this butt and the head and the neck, but where's the rest of the body? Who knows? I mean, I love that about this deck, that really hyper cubist quirkiness about this deck is just fabulous. And I'm glad that they maintained as much as they did. Love the fact that, doesn't it look like there's this leg going up and one leg up on this maybe fallen column? It kind of looks like a fallen column, doesn't it? Kind of like a victor's leg above the fallen column pose. Just fabulous. And here we finally have the Hermit at 11. No lantern, right? So, is this the Hermit? Is it Father Time? There are no titles. You can make your own decision on that. We got a cane in the hand, yes. We got the inside of the cape brighter than the outside of the cape or cloak, which is lovely. Love the gray hair on this cleaned up version, but I also like the original. Fabulous cards. And here we go with 12, the Hanged Man. Yes, it is right side up or upside down, whatever you want to say. Yeah. Notice if we turn this card this way, the number is wrong, right? It's not 12, it's 2 and 10. The order is wrong. We turn it this way, the number is right. The Hanged Man is not hanging, but transcended, is rising above. This Hanged Man has to be tied down or else it's going to ascend, which I kind of love about this deck. Yeah, it's not the Hanged Man, it's the tied down ascendant one. So yes, this hanged person needs to be tied down or they're just going to float up into the sky. With the shape of the 4. We got that 4 here. We got the fingers down here. And in some decks, with the fingers sticking up, there's a tongue sticking out, which to me is one of those neener kind of facial expressions. We don't get that. We got a very innocent looking person here, to me. Love the hair. Love the colors on the tops or bases of these poles, whichever you want to see them as. Just a gorgeous Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man, you probably know, is one of my favorite cards in tarot decks. It's one of the important ones to me. That's why I named my channel. One of the reasons I named my channel The Hanged Man in the Moon. I also love the number 12. That's the other reason. And Jungian psychology is the third reason. But I love the Hanged Man. And here we go with 13. Originally without a title, no title here. But notice the bones here. Yeah, they decided to leave the flesh out. Yeah, this skeleton is kind of fleshy in the original or the deck that I've got from Patrik. Here they decided to leave the bones fleshless, which is a good choice, I think. Love the colors on the scarf around the neck. Beautiful colors, beautiful choices of how to color them in this way. I love the bones here, at the hip bones, the vertebrae. Love the skull, beautiful. These faces are cleaned up here at the bottom, easier to see. I love that. Very difficult to see on this side. See, there's a foot here. Oh, okay, so I've always seen this as a foot, but apparently it's not a foot. It's flora. But you know what? In reading this deck, I'm still going to look at that as a foot, just so you know. 2 hands here, very easy to see. Another hand here. Now, I always thought that this was flora, but apparently that's a hand. Who knew? Again, these little bits are not that important for the way I read cards. I mean, if this is a foot, I'm going to read, I can't read this deck if it's not a foot over here, or I can't read this deck here if it's not clearly a hand. You know what I mean? So that's not going to mess up my reading at all, but I do still see this as a foot. And I think I will continue to see this as a hand, which I hadn't thought of before. Okay, so here we have 14. We have the Temperance card. Love this Temperance card. She's got a wand, beautiful facial expression, lovely, lovely face on this Temperance figure. No wings, right? Crown, beautiful dress. Little touch of feet sticking out are much clearer to see than they are here. Love the underskirting and overskirting. Love that we can see the two pots so much more clearly. And Sol, fame, only fame. Yeah, fame is important, only fame. Sol, fama. Beautiful cards, right? And this face is just gorgeous. Even to a modern person's eye, I think this face is beautiful. Okay, so moving on to the devil, and I've loved this devil ever since the first time I saw it. And look at this hand. It's so difficult to see. What is this? What is this red splotch here? It's so difficult to see. What is this? Yeah? Is this a face? Is it not? In the deck that I have here, it's very difficult to see this image. And I'm so glad to have this cleaned up version. We can see that there's something like a mask here over a bluish furrier face, maybe. That's the way I see this. There's this thing which reminds us of the charioteer, right? Let me pull out the charioteer just so that we all see what I'm seeing. You see that side, and I forget the name of this thing here, reminds me of this thing here. So is this the charioteer? Is this our will gone wild? Maybe, maybe not. Love the face on the belly, love the faces on the knees. The claws are so easy to see. Love the dots of red on the wings, yeah? Now, one thing that I do kind of miss is this little gray band here, but again, is that going to stop? Is that going to mess up my reading? No way. Does this look like an eggplant to you? It never looked like an eggplant to me before, but this kind of makes me think eggplant suddenly. I don't know why. Let me know what you think. Here we go with le fauve, the lightning. Or this doesn't have a title, and this doesn't have lightning actually. Some decks you can see the lightning coming down to strike the tree. This isn't the tower. This isn't the Maison Dieu. This isn't La Fauve, really. This actually, just looking at this looks like manna from heaven. Now I'm imposing a very, well, the tarot is biblically based, right? The tarot that was reinvented in Italy and moved up to France is a biblically based system of cards. It's a Christian deck. There's no two ways about it. The interpretations expanded and morphed and added astrology, etc. But it really is a deck that is based in a society, a cultural milieu of Christianity. Pre the Protestant Reformation, right? So this looks like manna coming down from heaven to me. Just saying. We got the sheep, we got a shepherd. Very interesting, right? And very clear that there's no lightning here. I kind of saw maybe this might be lightning coming down here, but very clear it's not lightning. So what are we going to call that card? Let me know in the comments below. Here we have the star card. Now, there are other decks that have an astronomer in the star card. Sometimes there are two. The Tarot de Paris, I think there are two astronomers. But I love this. We've got the structure here of a castle or a tower. We've got an astronomer with the book and the compass. We've got the stars and fire in the sky. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. And here we have the moon. A woman sitting out in the moonlight spinning wool. Something you would probably not do. Yeah? Spinning wool with a distaff is not done best in the darkness. So, what are we saying here? Are we saying that there is a lot of light coming down from this moon, so it's not so dark? Doesn't look so dark to me, does it? Does it look dark to you? But I'm so glad. So this is an interesting system. This is an interesting perspective on the moon card. The woman spinning under the moonlight, but clear moonlight. See the tree, easier to see the tree, the plants, easier to see what she's wearing here. I'm very appreciative of the choice of clothing they gave her. Lovely. We can see the wool, we can see the distaff. It's just so much easier to see in the Artisan Tarot deck, and yet I also want this one. The Sun card. Instead of a naked baby, we've got a naked teenager on a horse. But we've got, very similar to Pamela Coleman Smith's art, right? We've got a horse, we've got a naked rider, a little older, a little bit more of an adult. We've got the banner, we got the sun. Look at that expression on the sun. That's a kind of, looks like a little teed off sun, doesn't it? We don't have a wall in the background, but a lovely, lovely image. Love the clarity of the figure on the horse and the face of the horse. All of that is so clear in this deck. And then we have Judgment. A Judgment card which is a little bit difficult to see in my Patrik, and also you'll notice that the images are cut oddly, right? The deck that this was reproduced from is also cut oddly. So that's why that odd cutting was maintained by Patrik in a Koch, I'm sorry, not Koch, in his facsimile of the deck. However, here we have a very beautifully framed central card image, right? The 20 at the top, we've got that angel with beautiful wings, beautiful clouds. Love the highlights on the clouds. I love the figures rising up from the tombs. So easy to see. The city in the background is so much easier to see here than it is here. Yet I love this deck too. Just saying. The color choices are perfect. And perhaps now you're starting to see why this and this color match so nicely. Now this burgundy and this deck will go together phenomenally. Here we go with the World card. Definitely an androgynous person. We got the eagle, we got the angel, we got the bull, we got the lion. Now I think in many decks, the lion and the bull are reversed, right? The lion would be here, the bull is here, but yeah, you know, that's the way Vieville did their deck. Vieville. Love this caped androgyne figure. Love the halo, and I'm so glad to be able to see the face so much more clearly in this deck, in the one by Artisan Tarot. Love the halos around all four of the figures. We can even see the little halo over what I think of as the Scorpio eagle. Little halo there, little halo there, halos down here. The laurel wreath is bound in 4 sections, which I think is wonderful. I've never quite understood why we didn't have binding at 4 areas of the other laurels. Why is it only 2 in so many? I think this binding off into 4 sections actually works better for Tarot. I think, personally. So I like this. I prefer this. Now, we get into the small cards, right? The minor arcana. Here we have so much easier to see the cloud and the hand here. Yeah, we got the cut limbs, just lovely. Coloring here is perfection, perfection. Here we have the 2 of bâton. Here we have the 3 of bâton. You notice there are no numbers here in the small cards. But it's easy enough to count, right? Especially when we're looking at 3. Notice this. Notice the blood or the red where the plants have been cut. they maintained this in 1, 2, 3 sections. Here we've only got 2. This one's white right here, but I'm glad that they colored it in. I think that consistency is nice. Here we have the 4 of Wands. You'll notice the space between the wands is clearer here. Here it's kind of all mushed together. Here they're clear, and I like having both. I don't think that this is necessarily better. It's clearer. I don't think this is necessarily better. It's softer. Having both, I think, is perfect. So everybody get both. The law has spoken. And yeah, here we have another card where it's really clear that the cutting is really catawampas. And not here. It's very beautifully centered. But you'll notice that, okay, let's see. This apparently wants to be this way. It's impossible for me to tell when a baton card has been turned upside down. Just saying. So you'll notice that these sides are cut off. That has been maintained. Yeah. The baton go outside of the frame of the card. That's been maintained. You'll notice that this is off center, right? This goes up to here, and then this seems to point off this way, and then this points off this way, and this don't match up. Here they match up more. And yet there's still a roughness to the way that these bits are drawn. Now the golden bits are not equal, what is that word? Equal, are not standardized. Which I like. Gives that rough feel to the deck, which is beautiful, even in the cleaned up version. And here we have the 6, lovely card. Yeah. Floral decorations are crisp and clean, no caffeine. It looks like my card is reversed compared to them. But really, it doesn't really matter so much for the wands, right? What is upright and what is reversed. They're pretty much the same. Now see how difficult it is to see this section of the wand tips here. So nice to have it nicely drawn, colored in, beautifully done. And again, I think that this card wants to be this way to match up, right? Interesting. We do see, what am I trying to say? Notice the red wand going through here. Did we see that on the 5 as well? Yes, we did. Now on the 5 as well, we see the wand going through the break between the front pair of wands. So yes, here we have it on the 7 as well. The red wand, the red part of the wand visible between the interlaced wands here. And here we have the 8, lovely card. Lovely card. Is mine the same as theirs? Nope. Okay, so apparently this is the way it would go to match up. And the 9. Again, we see the wand coming visible behind the interlaced wands in front. Here we have that red patch which appears in many of the Tarot de Marseille in the center. But this is the only one here that I recall that had that patch. Here in the 9. Of course, we don't get that patch here in the Artisan Tarot deck. Okay, and here we have the 10. And you'll notice that in the facsimile deck, there's this red splotch in between the 2 central wands here, which is not visible in the, whoa, I'm so sorry, which is not visible in the Artisan Tarot deck. Not necessary. It's again, much clearer image. And we notice the red splotch here. 9 and 10 have that red splotch. So what? Is that blood? More blood in the wand suit? Are we going to read this as a more difficult, more challenging card because of that extra red? Or is it a more passionate card because of that extra red blotch? And these extra red bits at top and bottom. Is it showing more passion, or is it showing more pain, or is it both? Okay, page. Look at the weird face. Now, I actually prefer this weirdness a little bit more than this one because it is just so over the top odd. But this cleaned up face is nice. It's very nice. I'm glad that it's there. Now, do you notice that this arm does not really completely make sense with this body? Yeah, this arm, can this really be attached to this shoulder? Difficult to tell. Yeah, love the size of the wands on both of these. Very difficult to manage. Interesting choice of the white dots on the shoes. I would not have thought of that. It's very interesting. When I say I would not have thought of it, it does not mean that I think it's a bad choice. It's just a choice that I wouldn't have thought of, and that is interesting, and it intrigues me. It draws my curiosity. Love that. I do love that the hair is clear. Now, there's the hair, there's the face. Here we got this. This person had a really bad dye job, and that dye got all over their face. It's kind of what it looks like to me. Here we have the Knight of Baton. Here, much clearer to see what is baton, where does the baton end. Here, not so much. Is it kind of sticking inside of his skirting on his tunic? It's hard to tell. I love that they kept the different colors on the horse. I love that. Now the pink leg and the rest of it being grayish blue, I love that. The little circus looking embellishment on the forehead of the horse in both, I love that. Love the faces on these, love the faces in this entire deck. We can really see the tassels in the Artisan Tarot deck as well. And the stirrup and the spur. Lovely, lovely artwork. And the queen, look at that face on that queen, yeah? Huge face. That baton is easier to see. Yeah, the red, the space here at the top instead of this mushy color. Her arm, this arm looks a little odd, doesn't it? But I'm glad that they kept it just as it is. Little foot sticking out, very petite little foot for such a large head. Lovely crown, very nicely cleaned up. Beautiful cards, beautiful court cards. And okay, so I was saying the queen had a big head. Look at the king. That's huge. Reminds me of the Oompa Loompas, except not the right color, right? If it had an orange face, it would definitely be the Oompa Loompa king and queen. But we can see the chair very easily, the wand, very easy to see. Very refined. As refined as we would want a king's wand to appear to be. The clothes are, the design on the clothes, on the armor, the frills on the lace work around the shoulder and around the skirt of the tunic. Lovely, just lovely. Oh, beautiful, beautiful decks. Both of them beautiful in their own way. Ace of Cups, gorgeous cards, right? I love that they added the red at the top. The coloration on this ace is just stunning. And I like that they kept the drawn in lines and then the blank space here. Love all of this. And I also love that this, see how this circle is, again, Caterwonkus is just off center, like in apparently the original. I love that that's maintained. And that these things are all very different sizes. The pillars around the top of the chalice are all very different sizes. Some things are shaded, some things are not. It's just, I love the detail. Here is the Two of Cups. La Lune, Le Soleil, la Force de Prince, a Force. Okay, there's an explanation for this in the books, and I don't remember it, but you can get it on your own. Get the deck, you'll see what this means. Love the two dragon or fish. They don't look like fish to me at all. Could they be dragon heads? Maybe. Could they be flowers? I don't think so. I think they're more mythical creature heads in both of these decks. Beautiful. And I love that we can see the level of the wine or the liquid, the blood even, here in these chalices. Whereas here it's just this kind of mishmash. There's this line here where where this red probably should not have been. And here it's very clear. Now you can see this line work here, but it's all splattered, covered over with red in this deck. The original, or a facsimile of the original. Here we have the threes. Simpler, a little simpler than Tarot de Marseille decks to me. And yet there's a beauty. And again, I love the coloration. I love the shading and transition from one color to another in the Artisan Tarot decks. Especially, look at this. The transition from this red to this blue-gray, just fabulous. They decided to add some red down here at the bottom. It's a good choice. Here we have the Four of Cups. Yeah, not vertical, right? Sticking off to the side, both of them. I'm glad that they kept that. The Five of Cups, lovely, lovely. And you see the design work on the original deck is just off, right? These filigrees, these embellishments get much more refined with the later French decks. And here they're kind of rough. You know, they're kind of drawn in haphazardly. They're not drawn in a line and they maintained that, which was necessary, if you ask me. That was a necessary choice. The Six of Cups, lovely. You can see the dot in the center of the red here, which is very difficult to see in this card from the facsimile. We can see these maybe berries here at the bottom. It's difficult to tell what that is. The Seven of Cups. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cards. And I love that we can see the rim and then the red liquid inside with some shading. Here, again, very difficult to see. The Eight of Cups. No numbers, right? There are no numbers in the small cards. The Nine of Cups. Now, so why is this not Tarot de Marseille? I mean, the cups are laid out in the way that other Tarot de Marseille cups are laid. The wands are laid out in the way other Tarot de Marseille wands are laid. Yeah? So that's why the differences, I think, are in the major arcana, where the numbers are a little bit off. You'll see in a bit the swords, the pentacles, the disc, the denier, they all look very much the same as a Tarot de Marseille deck. So for me, this is Tarot de Marseille because of the small cards, because of the minor arcana. Here we have the 10. Now, usually this cup is facing this way, but in other decks, however, here we have the cup facing this way, looking like there's a little bit of a grate on the top of this card, which is there, but difficult to see in the facsimile. Sometimes this looks like a coin, one of the deniers, but not here in this deck. And here we have the page. Love this page. The pages in this deck look much older than Tarot de Marseille decks. Now, I've always seen this as a mustache above this guy's mouth, but there's no mustache here. I'm still going to see this as a mustache. I see this as a much older figure than he appears here. But we can see the hat or the cap to the chalice being held in the hand. Here it looks a little bit more like a person's cap. Here it looks more like the cap or the cover to the chalice. No cloth covering the chalice in this page, right? You can see the pantaloons. It's much easier to see the banding on the pantaloons here. Here, well, kind of difficult. I do wish that they had kept a mustache on this guy to give him a little bit more age. Just my own preference. Here we have the knight, and I've always seen this knight as being a little bit bald. Now, to me, I thought this was like a bald spot here. Apparently, for Artisan Tarot, this was not a bald spot. This is just poor coloration. I'm going to still see this guy as being a little bit bald. Love that. See how this knight is holding the cup? Not all that secure. looks like it's very precarious to me in both of these decks. Love the face on this horse. Difficult to see the face on the horse in the facsimile. And oh, okay, so this is a spur. Okay, so sometimes I thought that this might be a flower, but no, this really is a spur. And I can see that now. Here we have the queen with her covered cup. Lovely. We don't get that cloth hanging over in front of her as much, but her cup is still covered. So there is still that idea of being protective of our cups. Love how clear and clean this crown is. It's so difficult to see this in the facsimile. Although I do kind of like this, the dyed faces, the shadow work, the shadow that seems to be in some of these faces, right? Yeah, this could be shadow. And I joked about the hair dye, but really badly done hair dye where the face is stained with the hair dye as well. But another way to see this is shadow. Yeah, a shadow here on the face, which I kind of miss a little bit in the cleaned up version. But like I said, I'm glad I have both. It's really clear to see here what is scepter and what is not. I like that. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. And here we have a king. The beard is so clear to see here. The crown is so clear. I'm still not sure what this thing is. Is that on the wall or is this sticking out of the crown? Both decks, it's really difficult for me to see. But it is clearer to see that this is a pillow that his feet are on. And that his robe here is open, here at the bottom. Chalice is covered here. Most kings have an open chalice. This one is covered, which is interesting, right? And here we have the aces, ace of swords. We got the hand from the clouds coming, I think, from a different side. Usually I think it's coming from this side, but here it's coming from here. We got both kinds of plants hanging from the crown. The crown is much easier to see in this deck, in the redrawn deck. Here we have the two of swords. Lovely. So clear. Now, I'm probably going to notice that I'm wrong. Yep, okay, so I've got my swords pointing in a different direction, so I'll reposition them as we go. So, swords facing up. That's usually how I like to have them anyway, swords facing up. And it makes sense. If you look at these flowers, that makes sense. The flower is growing up. The flower is growing up. Love the pommel of the horse. The pommel of the sword is very easy to see. A little bit difficult on this one. The 4, and again, we can see through the swords in the redrawn deck, whereas it's just this blotch of gray here in the facsimile. Love that we can see the red at the bottom of this plant, bleeding from where it's been cut. And again, I will turn this around. Love that the color of the sword goes to the end where it's kind of cut off here. Yeah, the sword turns white at the top. The 6 of swords. Here, instead of red at the bottom at the cut, here it's gold at the cut. So maybe that means something. Some plants bleed some blood, some plants bleed gold. So maybe this plant is bleeding gold. It's more of a fortunate card rather than a bloody card. Maybe. I mean, that's one thing that could be considered, right? Here we have the 7 of swords. And it's interesting that I'm glad that they kept this, the gold between the lines of the swords, whereas the spaces between the gray are visible. The gold here is maintained. And that's the first place that has shown up, right? No, it's not the first place. I'm just slow in the uptake. So it was there for the 5. It's there for all of them. I'm just slow in noticing things. So it was there from the 4. Now this gold between the swords. 5, 6, it's all there. 7. Here we go with the 8. The little flower in the center is much clearer to see. Beautifully drawn cards. And the 9. Okay, my 9 is upside down. But yes, the sword here in this redrawn version is much more elegant looking. where it's a little clunky here, isn't it? Love the shading on the flowers here. Just beautiful. And the 10. Okay, my 10s are right. But look at how blotchy this is and how clean and clear this is on the Artisan Tarot deck. Absolutely beautiful. Here is the Page of Swords. We can see the scabbard much easier here, whereas here we don't get it fully colored in the facsimile. The face. Look at that face. Look at the intensity of the gaze. Because we gaze is intense. And here we go with the Knight of Swords. The lion on the shoulder, yeah, the feather in the headdress for the horse. Tassels, beautifully done. So clear here, so a little muddy here. And yet I'm again, love this deck. Look at the mail here at the bottom. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay, here we go with the Queen. Now they cleaned up the splotches on the Queen. Yeah, no dots on the face. No flying sparks behind her. And this sword looks a little difficult to hold, doesn't it? That arm looks a little long. These arms look very long, right? Her face doesn't look huge like some of the queens, but her arms look very, very long to me. Her clothing is so much easier to understand. And here we go with the King of Swords. Look at that. I hadn't noticed this dagger before, frankly. Yeah, because like I said, it's so difficult to see. Here, it's a dagger. And his shoes are all spotty. And his hair, very young king, right? Love the crowned hat. Plant here. Just amazing. We can clearly see that these are shin guards, right? I didn't really notice that here before, that those are metal shin guards. I thought they could be hose, but here, it's very clearly they're metal shin guards. And here we go with the Ace of Pentacles with a poem on the front. And I'm not going to read the poem. It's in the book. It's in the information. You can find it yourself. But very different Ace of Pentacles, right, for this deck. Beautifully done. And the writing is easier to see. The line work is just pristine. It's fabulous. Now, this is a card, I should say, where in the cleaned up version, it looks really, really stark and bare. In the smudgy version, it looks more textured and gentler, you might say. So, in a sense, I prefer this kind of messy version to this one, because this does look so stark. It says Jaques Vieville à Paris, made in Paris. No dates. But this really is kind of harsh looking to my eye, whereas this one is softer, and I do like the softness of this because that banner is so plain without it, right? But you make your choice. You make your choice. Are we going to clean it up or not? And they made the choice to clean it up, and it was a good choice. Because look at how beautiful, on the other hand, look at how beautiful these plants are as compared to these plants. I love the plants on this one. I like the banner on this one. Does that make sense? Anyways, here we go with the 3. Now, for me, I prefer the 3 sitting like this, so I'm going to turn this 3 around. And if you're saying, you can't do that, well, I can because it's my deck. But I prefer having the triangle shaped like this rather than going down to the earth. And I know you could probably say, but yes, this is the earth sign and the triangle should be pointing down, but I prefer the triangle pointing up, and that's me and it's my deck. Love the roses in this one, don't you? Love the pentacles. Love the discs, I should say. The disc, not the pentacles. And notice the difference here between this disc, all of the embellishments in this disc, this coin, this denier, this disc, Very different from this one. Now, I think the rest of them are going to start looking like this one, but I may be wrong. Let's look. Da, 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 da. Yes, so, yes, this is how the rest of them are going to look, basically. But you'll notice that even this one is different, right? And the 4. Love the 4. Love the shield here. Love the shield here, too. The 4 of coins, of discs, of denier. The 5s. So, I think we've finally settled on the design for the discs. From here to the 10s are going to be like this. So it gets stabilized on the 4, which makes sense, right? We went from the 1 of the seed that's new and full of stuff, and the 2 it's divided, and this all that stuff has broken off into 2 pieces. So there's a less complex form, and then there's the 3, which is something new, and then we reached a stability with the 4, and that stability is going to continue to some extent through the rest of the suit. Here we have the 6. Look at that. Now here, very off center, off balance, right? Here it's nicely balanced. Now, okay, so apparently this is the direction it wants to be in, but 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Why do I say that? Because of this plant here. Can you see that? Okay, so here we go with the, what is this? The 7. Yes, it is. It's the 7. So easy to see what the plants are here. The discs are different. It's not like a rubber stamped disc in being copied over and over. There are differences, right? And still clearer, easier to see than here. And here we have the 9. Well, I'm sorry, the 8. Skipped the 8. Here we have the 8. Again, easier to see. Here we have the 9 with the coin in the center. Beautifully done. And it looks like mine is reversed in comparison. Okay, and the 10s. Now you'll notice these 10s are a little bit different, right? The central floral image is much larger. The coins themselves are smaller than other decks. It's just beautiful. And here we go with the quartz, the page. Look at that page. Lovely, lovely face. Lovely clothes. I love this choice of color. Coin in the hand, 1 in the foot. Love that they kept this band of gray, like a shadow, going behind the page. I'd never thought of that before, but here, because it's so clean, so clear, that really looks much more like a shadow of this figure. Here we have the knight. Lovely. Glad that they kept the different colored legs as usual. Love the pink mane here. Knight chasing their coin with a wand in their hands. Much less dressed for battle, right? More out for a ride. When we think of the knights, a lot of them, they often look like they're dressed for battle, right? Except for the cups and the pentacles, the discs. Cups and discs, not so much for battle. Much more romantic looking garb here for the cups knight. And for the coins knight, a little bit more, I don't know, ready for work, ready for court, maybe. And here we have the Queen of Coins. Now, her face here looks a lot less harsh than her face here, but I like both of them. I do. We can see the chair more easily. It's still, who knows what this is? That's not her leg. I'm sure it's not her leg. I don't know what this is, but I'm glad they kept it. I am very glad that they kept it. Beautiful. Love the color, the change of color from this part of the head to this part of the head. Is that they're the flowers, the greenery going from gold to dark gray? Beautiful. And the king, look at that. Much easier to see this king's face. The hat is much clearer than this one. The disc on the knee, much clearer. Very much like the Emperor and the four of the of Le Pendu, the Hanged Man, right? The legs in the shape of a four. The head looking up and out to perhaps the past. Lovely. The stool is very clear. The ground is easy to see. Amazing. This is an amazing deck as usual. Artisan Tarot, you've knocked it out of the park once again. I'm always thrilled. And let me show you another title card here. Let me show you this deck and how easy it is to shuffle this. So, I am a horrible overhand shuffler, just so you know. Let me do a quick overhand shuffle so you can see. So it's got just enough of a cling so that even I, with clumsy hands, can overhand shuffle. But the pièce de résistance, the thing that is just wonderful, is how amazing the bridge and the riffle shuffle and the bridge are. Let me show that to you again. Here we go with a riffle shuffle. See that? See how beautifully that worked? And then the bridge. It's like butter. No, it's better than butter. It's like casino cards. It's just amazing. Let me do a third shuffle. So let me pull 3 cards. And how am I going to pull 3 cards? Because I don't want to do a full shuffle. So what I'm going to do is do one more overhand. And the question is, what is a message we want to hear? What would we benefit from hearing? And then I'm going to pull 8s. And I'll tell you what that means. My number is 8 for pulling cards. So I do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's going to be the first card. Well, so we have the 8 of Swords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we have the 3 of Wands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the star. Okay, this is a perfect reading. I think for us, for all of us. What do we have? Just like in one sentence. The 8 of Wands, the 8 of Swords, I mean, for me, is the 8s are the most. It's like 6 is beauty. The 8 is the culmination of the power of the suit. It's not the 9 or the 10 where it's coming to the end. It's like the fullness of the suit before we reach the end. Yeah, before things break down, perhaps, and then we come to the end of the suit. So the 8s, this of thought, that would be like meditation, deep contemplation. It's growing, and you'll notice this flower here in the center, right? This is something that we are nurturing, nourishing within the center of our mind. It's protected within the center of our mind and appreciated. And so there are a thought that is, or an idea, or an understanding that we nurture within the deep reflection of mind. This flower leads us to a breaking forth of a creative potential, a potential that laid here in that idea bursts forth into a powerful, new, creative endeavor, one that we're not perhaps quite sure how it will be received. Now, this is the beginning of it. It's not the one where it's the real beginning, the seed. It's not the 2 where things are just starting to knock together. The sparks are starting to come off. This is the 3 where it's really coming out into the world. So, from this nurturing, in deep reflection and contemplation, here we get that burst into the world of a new creation. And that leads us to our North Star. Yeah, that will give us the direction for us to follow. Yeah, this becomes our North Star. That becomes where we want to head, where we want to place our attention, where the direction we want to go in, and our hope. So that's what we want to do, friends. Give time for reflection, contemplation, being open to the new from within, which will, if we allow it, burst forth into a new star for us. Creatively, passionately, energetically. Does that make sense to you? So friends, that is this deck, and I highly recommend going to get it. And if you want to get it, there will be a link below. You can click on the link and you can hop over to Artisan Tarot's site and order this deck or any of the other decks. They've got 3 others. They've got the Noblet, the Dodal, they've got their first deck, which was the Conver, and they've got a new deck, a brand new creation by a new inventor called, I forget the name of it. If you go over there, it's a beautifully new, absurd deck from the Tarot de Marseille tradition. It's not an antique deck redrawn, but it's a brand new creation. So I also recommend that, but I recommend this one too. So if you want this one, I'll have a link below. If what is his name? The Patrik Koch version, if this version is still available, I'll put a link to that below as well. So friends, here we are. If you want a private reading from me, my email address is below. So send me an email and we can get you a reading. And hit the thumbs up button if you're still here so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this and other people may get something out of it too. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I tend to do 3 a week now. This will be a 4th one for this week. So get notifications and comment below. What do you think of this deck? Are you going to get this deck? Do you have this deck? How much do you love this deck? Let me know in the comments. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.